You know, looking back about 10 years ago when Ian Flynn introduced us to the Mecha Sally arc, we all know exactly what occurred following that. Basically, Ian Flynn had plans to have this story arc of Mecha Sally, Death Egg Mark II, World Tour II, if you will. He had plans for it to go up to 300 and then be done. Part of that trip was, of course, restoring Sally, where basically, from what I can tell, she would inevitably have the design she ended up getting in the soft reboot that we saw at the end of 252, and basically moving forward after that. Now, of course, I've come on here and I've said that Ben Bates has given me some other behind the scenes information about what was going on, and it does kind of connect to maybe the story arc going on for about up to issue 300 before finishing. I mean, the fact that the Sally they would get would be a Neo Sally, and that the real Sally was some kind of chronogenic slumber somewhere around the planet, and Sonic and Tails had to go find her, stuff like that. But when one really thinks about it, despite what information behind the scenes or whatever we may get of what could have been or how it was presented at first before it changed, there's always that question of what if and what could have been. Now, we do know that currently the people in charge of the Archie Sonic Online comic, which is basically a fan online continuation of what the comic would have been going, or direction the comic would have gone in had there not been any of the behind the scenes lawsuits and interference. It also makes you think of it makes you think basically what they have in store as well. Like, what the plans are for Sally now that in their continuation of the original continuity before the soft reboot in the official book of Archie Comics, it makes you wonder exactly what do they have in store for Sally. Are they going to follow through on maybe some of the hints and behind the scenes information that, people like Ben Bates and Ian Flynn and others have given us? Or are they going to go in their own direction? It really makes you wonder exactly what could be when you also talk about what if and what, could have been. Because they kind of, in a sense, fall into the same category. I mean, what if and what could have been is basically, us as fans speculating of exactly, what direction Ian Flynn would have taken Sally, had he gotten her restored probably between, let's say, 250 and 300. Like, what would her reaction be, facing off against Eggman for the first time since being de-roboticized? That's always a what if and what could have been scenario you have to think about. Would she let her emotions get the best of her? Would she start feeling regret? What would be the purpose? What would be the reasoning for her to probably lash out if she saw Eggman after being de-roboticized, knowing what he did to her? It really makes you kind of ponder what if that happened, what if the comic continued in the direction continuity wise that Ian wanted it to for the story, and what could have been had that occurred. But then when you take a look at the fan interpretation that's being done with the Archie Sonic Online on a yearly, if not bi-yearly basis, or bi-yearly basis, or half a year basis, it also makes you wonder of what they have in store, what could be. Will they, when they get to that moment down the line, have Sally lash out against Eggman once she gets back on the field, back on duty, as she said, and as she basically said back, told the people of New Mobitropolis, as soon as she gets back on, back into the field of active duty, will her first encounter with Eggman be one where she lashes out, against him? It really makes you think. It makes you wonder about that because, the curiosity is like at a high pitch or a high level of exactly what could have been, what if, and could have been had it, had things gone the way they were originally planned in the official Archie publication. And it also makes you curious of what could be in the fan interpretation continuation of Archie Sonic Online. But I'm going to come on here and kind of give you my ideas of exactly where I think, just by the way things are being set up in Archie Sonic Online, and basically going off of what, Ian Flynn and others were talking about with the official book, I want to give you my thoughts on what I think, the direction could have been taken for Sally after her being restored to flesh and blood from being roboticized. So when I look at a what if, what could have been as far as the official publication through Archie Comics, I kind of look at the fact, depending on what you believe or what you want to take seriously, the behind-the-scenes information that, Ian Flynn and Ben Bates and Tracy Yardlin and all of them give us, I look at the fact that, one, Ian Flynn had all the intentions to basically have Sally restored by the 250th anniversary issue, or at least, to an extent, get her free will back. But from the way things were originally panned out, and if you take the behind-the-scenes issues and put them aside and act like they never happened, basically it sounds like to me that Ian Flynn, as I said, wanted to have Sally de-roboticized by at least the 250th issue. Now, would this have resulted in her retaining her original look, as we see in the Archie Sonic Online adaptation of what they believe 250 was? No, not exactly. I think what it would have resulted in is exactly what we got in 252, that we got moving forward after that, and that is the design of her soft reboot design that was given and first seen at one of the Comic-Cons. I think it was New York Comic-Con back in around, what was it, like 2012, 2013. So yeah, I think basically, honestly, that's what we would have gotten, in my opinion. That basically the design he had planned out for her, that basically debuted and was showcased at the convention and utilized in the post SGW continuity of the book. That would have been the design she would have had originally, no matter what. I mean, we all have our own fan interpretations and beliefs of what it could have been, but I think honestly what we got in the post SGW soft reboot is exactly what it would have been had things gone the way Ian Flynn wanted them or intended them to go, had it not been for the behind-the-scenes issues. Now, as far as how would she react basically once she encountered Eggman after all this was said and done, I honestly think that just by the example or the moments that we got in 256 when she and Amy had the memories restored and Sally of course sees what she had become and all that, and then her kind of lamenting and guiltily lamenting over what she did in the following issue. I think honestly, and knowing how Ian Flynn kind of writes his stories at times, especially if he wants to put a lot more emphasis on drama and maturity and character development in his own perspective, I think honestly we would have had a moment, and this is how I think it could have gone. I think honestly, building up to issue 300, I think once you got to that final confrontation, because you're building it up for about almost 60 issues, so my thought process is I truly believe that had things gone the way Ian Flynn intended them to go originally, that by the time we got to that final confrontation, which would have concluded with issue 300, thus bringing to a close the whole Mecha Sally Death Egg Mark II story arc, I think when Sally sees Eggman for the first time after being de-roboticized, she would have gone after him. I think the way the storyline, the way you kind of got those, moments, if you will, with her after she gets her memory restored, and then her guiltily lamenting over what she did in the following issue, I think originally there were plans to probably build upon that, and once she encounters Eggman, for that final confrontation, that, like I say, bringing closure to the Mecha Sally arc, I think she would have lashed out on him, she would have attacked him, and she probably would have came close to doing what Shadow originally wanted to do in the IDW books, but Sonic didn't let him. Well, Sonic basically said that's not going to solve anything. And I believe Sally, from a story perspective, just the way, you got those moments hinted up and everything, even with the soft reboot, I think Sally, had things gone originally planned, would have confronted Eggman in the final confrontation, attacked him, and basically be on the verge of finally doing what a lot of characters, even in the Archie run, felt needed to be done a long time ago, and that's kill him. She would have probably tried to kill him, and her friends probably, like Sonic, would have to come to her, her side, or prevent her from doing so, and saying, this is not you, this is not what a freedom fighter is about, despite the fact that this guy deserves it, and if not more than that, this is not you. That's not what a freedom fighter is. And I honestly believe, and again, it's just my opinion, but going off, some of the ideas and stuff that they had planned out, or they, from behind the scenes perspective, before everything went, straight to the nut house, if you know what I mean. I think honestly that's what Ian Flynn was building up to. Her confronting Eggman after being restored and probably lashing out on him, and to the point that when she's beating the heck out of him, she's going to basically attempt to do what, she wouldn't normally do, because she's letting her emotions over what he did to her, get the best of her. So I think that's what could have been, if the story had continued the way originally Ian Flynn had planned out for the original Archie publication. But, speaking of continuing, let's now talk about what could be potentially in the Archie Sonic Online continuation of the Archie books. Okay, so when we look at the Archie Sonic Online continuation of the original Archie continuity, of what could have been, in their interpretation, had there been no behind-the-scenes issues, we can now look and kind of ponder and speculate what could be. And in my honest opinion, the way they set up Sally and her reaction to what she had did, as Mecha Sally, just the emotions and everything that's pouring out and being just put on display and everything, I think honestly that once they get to that story, once they get to that issue where, the freedom fighters, together again confront Eggman in a final battle, and we're going to get there but sooner than you think. I've got a feeling we're going to get there sooner than you think. I have a feeling what's going to happen is exactly what I mentioned probably would have happened had things gone the way Ian originally wanted them to go in the official publication. I think those in charge at Archie Sonic Online will probably go in that direction with Sally. That once she gets back onto active duty and back on the field, and they have a confrontation with Eggman, either with the Freedom Fighters back together in full, or it's just her and Bunny and Sonic and Tails, I've got a feeling that she's going to that when she confronts Eggman, she's going to do exactly what I feel, was originally probably part of the plan in the official publication had things not gone astray. And that is, she's going to attack Eggman, she's going to emotionally lash out at him, and then she's going to be on the verge of doing basically what freedom fighters are not meant to do, and that's try to kill him. She's going to try to kill him in this continuation of in the Sonic Online book. Now that is basically what could be the direction they go in, or what they're leading to. Could be what they're leading to in a future issue. Now I'm not totally sure about that because I'm not on the staff, on the ASO staff, working on the book. But again, it's just, like I said, mere speculation on my part. But when I look at how they have Sally react to Sonic, basically, emotionally lashing out, saying, how can you say, what I did was wrong? After, how can you say, how can you be so cool about this after everything I did? And then her basically kind of saying that everything that happened when she was Mecha Sally, she wanted to happen. She meant for it to happen. And despite, some of her friends' efforts, like, Sonic saying, look, that thing or that mecha version of you wasn't you. And despite how everybody else feels the same way, just for the fact that we get that moment in there, and we get basically the first clue that she's going to get back into active duty, back on the field. I have a strong feeling that possibly one of the directions, if not the direction, they may try to go to in the next year or so, because this is, like I say, this online webcomic is, which is basically a continuation, a fan continuation of the original Archie book, before the soft reboot. I've got a feeling that, just by what was seen here, and the fact that she's already said that she plans to get back onto active duty, back on the field, that I've got a feeling that during that first confrontation with Eggman, she's going to lash out. She's going to lash out at him because of what he put her through, of what he caused her to do, for, weaponizing her. She's just going to let it all out. A good comparison, in a way, if you will, is Wanda. Now, we know WandaVision right now is currently airing on Disney+, the 3 episodes in. And everybody's giving us speculation of exactly what's going on in that show and who's behind it. But when you look at Wanda and how she reacted to Thanos in Endgame, in the final climactic battle, she basically lashed out at him. She said, "You took everything from me." And when Thanos, because this wasn't the Thanos that killed Vision, taking the Mind Stone out of him, ripping the Mind Stone out of him, this was a Thanos that was basically, basically it was the same Thanos, but it was a Thanos of the past that had those same intentions, those same plans to get an Infinity Stones. So basically, what did Wanda do? Wanda, basically lashed out at him. When she said, "You took everything away from me," and he says, "Well, I don't even know who you are," because again, he hasn't encountered her yet. She says, "You will. Oh, you will." And she basically uses her powers to basically beat the crap out of him. I mean, I basically super chatted to John Campea right now because they're doing a live stream, him and his wife, on WandaVision episode 3. I basically stated, and I even said this in a video earlier that I posted here on my channel, that, Wanda on her own nearly took out Thanos. And Thanos had to call upon his spaceships to rain fire upon his soldiers and the Marvel heroes to get her to stop, because he tried to battle her, but all she did was break his sword and lift him up with her powers. And if it wasn't for him calling upon a rain of fire to kind of stop her from doing it, she would have killed him right there. She would have just tore him apart. And I bring that up because I could see potentially that being a scenario, maybe not on that level, but a similar scenario to what maybe they could have planned for Sally during one of the first encounters with Eggman. That she will end up lashing out very similar to Wanda, to the point that it's going to take the interference of her friends or something from Eggman's side to get her to stop from almost killing him. So, my honest opinion is, and again, it's just speculation, but my honest opinion, just going by her emotional reaction to how everybody's kind of, trying to shrug off what she did, trying to, move on from it, trying to make her feel more at home, trying to get her back on her feet, and the fact that she says she wants to get back to active duty soon, I almost feel like this is building up to something, to a point that when she confronts Eggman in her first mission back on the active duty, back on the field for active duty, that she's going to lash out on him to the point that she's going to want to beat the crap out of him, and if she does, she's going to be on the verge of nearly killing him. And it's going to take her friends intervening, or something from Eggman's side to intervene to prevent her from completing that task. But that's what I think could be potentially in the future with the Archie Sonic book as far as Sally's character is concerned. So, anyway, I just thought I would come on here and just, give you my thoughts on what if and what could have been had the book continued as originally planned with the Mecha Sally arc, continuing the way Ian originally envisioned it. And also kind of give you my thoughts on what I see could be happening with the online continuation of the book that basically takes place within the continuity that Ian Flynn originally wanted to see through up to about issue 300, from what I can understand. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think both would have gone down? Do you think honestly that had things not been disrupted the way they were, that we potentially would have been leading to that point that not only would we have Sally de-roboticized, but during the first climactic battle with Eggman and everything, that she would have tried to lash out at him, try to kill him, and it would take the intervention of her friends to probably prevent her from doing it. And do you think potentially, as far as the Archie Sonic Online continuation goes, do you think that's a direction they may go in? Because again, all the clues seemingly are there. And do you also think that, had Ian Flynn gotten the story to go the way he wanted without the interference behind the scenes, that the de-robotization of Sally would have led to the design she got, or the redesign she would get in the soft reboot? Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think, any of these things, could have happened or potentially will happen? Let me know down below. Comment if you like. I'd love to hear from each and every one of you. And I am out.